Hey there, Hill folk, and welcome back to another episode of Appalachian Intelligence. We're so thankful that you guys can join us again for another week, for another episode. We hope you Hill folk had a very, very, very happy Halloween. We hope that all those kids got all sugared up on all the candy that they could possibly get and kept you parents up all night long, because Halloween needs to last as long as possible. It's November the 1st right now. We're just recording the day after Halloween, and I'm already missing it, man. I'm already missing it.
Yeah, it comes and goes too fast. And now my kids are too big, so they don't even give a shit about dressing up or doing anything. It's just me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although they did dress up for school, except for my youngest. She's got the flu.
Bless her heart.
Yeah.
We hope she does better. Happy Halloween again to all you Hill folk out there. We hope it was great. We'll jump in and get started. You know, we like to read out 5-star reviews. When we get love, we like to show love back and acknowledge you wonderful, wonderful Hill folk out there that show us a little love and gratitude. So this one is from Tonka Sue. It says, I think I want to be an Appalachian. I love this podcast. I'm a born and raised Oregonian, but after listening to these guys talk about all things Appalachian, I find myself wishing I could have grown up somewhere in the Appalachian Mountains. Keep up the podcast and all things weird. So, Tonka Sue, we really appreciate that review. There's no better place in the world than these Appalachian Mountains where we live. This is home. This is home. We love it. We love the history. We love the weird, and we're going to keep it weird, so don't you worry about that. Today, Lance can't be with us, so for any of you Lance fans out there, I don't think there's very many, because, boo, Lance.
I'm a fan of Lance. Don't talk about my friend like that.
Just kidding, Lance, just kidding. I know you'll go back and listen to this. I'm just playing. With you tonight is Justin and Ryan, but you don't just have to listen to Justin and Ryan tonight, because we have a super special guest. He is a listener of the show and fellow content creator of the weird. He runs the YouTube channel Local Legends with Berton Moran, and that's his name, Mr. Berton Moran. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. I want to thank you guys for letting me on your podcast with you. I really appreciate it.
Hell yeah, man. And how lucky was it that you got a channel named Berton Moran, and that's your name? That was awesome.
Do you believe it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that worked out perfectly.
How lucky was that?
I don't know how the algorithm worked that out for you.
It was a random name generator.
Yeah.
Man, you could not have gotten any luckier. That's awesome.
It's actually a lot of hassle when I had to legally change my name, but
yeah, I mean, I went through it all, signed the papers, and my parents are pissed, but what do you do?
Yeah. Just got to get over it. They got to get over it. Well,
Berton, my original name, Brad Pitt. Weird one.
No, Berton, man, it's great to have you on here. The pleasure is all ours. Before we jump in here and get started into some of these awesome experiences that you have, why don't you tell the Hill folk a little bit about your channel and a little bit about you and what you do?
Oh, perfect. Well, as you know, my name is Berton Moran. I have a YouTube channel called Local Legends Berton Moran. Thought about going with Berton Moran, but I just threw Berton Moran on there. I go ghost hunting. I go to haunted places, ghost hunting there. I'll go to cemeteries, but I also enjoy going and investigating missing people cases sometimes if they're particularly interesting to me. Not that, they have to be interesting, but it helps. And
we're not looking for you boring fuckers.
Exactly. It's got to be a little bit more of a mystery. No, but yeah, that's pretty much what I do, is ghost hunting, and I love just watching scary videos with friends. So there's always that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I was checking a little bit of it out today, and it's pretty good stuff, man. It's pretty good stuff. I was
appreciate that.
Extremely interested from the get-go. So Burton, we know that obviously you've became friends and solid loyal hollow cult. I'd pretty much dub you like a hollow cult lieutenant at this point. I mean, you're up there in the rankings.
I would say that, it's actually kind of funny because like a minute ago, I was just talking to Steve from the Hollow Sky podcast. He's talking about haunted places that we're talking about going to. So it's kind of funny that you say that.
Yeah, that'd be sweet, dude. That would be sweet. We love those boys over there. They've helped us out a ton. It's, and like we were talking before we started recording, as fellow content creators, this realm, it seems like people are just so eager to kind of team up and build the tribe and lift each other up and help each other out. And that's just an awesome thing for me. I mean, if we have the opportunity to do that for somebody, we're going to take it. And I mean, because there's already been so many people like Kyle and Steve that have done that for us. So, we would like to keep returning the favor.
Absolutely.
So, hopefully,
can I ask a question before I forget it, Justin?
No.
I'm going to anyway. Berton. Okay.
Yes.
You went to the demonic Goatman Bridge. Is that correct?
I did. Yes.
Do you know of Shane and Ryan from BuzzFeed?
I have seen their channel or their
Supernatural.
Content. Yep.
Did you see where they went to the bridge and Ryan basically claimed the bridge because the demon never showed up?
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. Did you issue a challenge like that?
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest with you. I went to the bridge, and this is like the worst thing that could have happened to me because I'm from South Dakota. It's 19 hours from here by car because I don't fly. Not yet. I've yet to be on a plane in my entire life. I'm not against it. I'm just cheap. So
yeah,
I drive down to Texas. I investigate the bridge for the most part. There was actually a little bit more foot traffic there than I wanted to be there, to be honest with you. But I can't tell people get off this bridge. It's not my bridge; it's Shane's bridge. So I actually do all the things that I'm supposed to do. I knock on the bridge 3 times. I call out to the goat man. Nothing happens. I get some interesting EVPs or spirit box voices come through, and then I head out into the woods. And on my way out into the woods, they talk about how that whole place is Satanists out there, and they can't sell cats at pet stores there anymore because they're all getting sacrificed out there. And I shit you not, I come across what looks to me like a giant pentagram out in these woods. And on the way out there, like there's signs like people have spray painted on the trees, like turn back or your death, stuff like that. So I'm like, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going.
I mean, obviously.
Absolutely. You don't turn around when they tell you, hey, you're gonna die. So well, I get out into the woods. I find this pentagram. I'm thinking to myself, well, that's interesting. And what the pentagram looked like, somebody had drugged their foot in the ground, and it's probably about 10-foot round pentagram out there in the middle of the woods in this clearing. And I'm like, filming this, and I start going off in my video about how you can't sell freaking cats at the pet store anymore because they keep getting sacrificed out here. And I start hearing what's going on in the woods is like somebody's running around me at like an extremely high speed from here to there out in the woods. And I'm like trying to see them with my light, can't see shit. What happened is the worst thing that could happen is my camera died. And for some reason, my camera did not save any of the footage.
Oh, no.
None of the footage got saved.
What?
And then, yeah, if you watch that video of me out at the Goatman's Bridge, the only thing I can catch is after I replaced the battery I had with me. I always have extras just in case. And it's the first time it's ever done it where it hasn't saved any of the freaking footage. And there's even a file for it, but you can't open it. So I explained, well, my camera just died. What the hell's that about? And I'm coming back out, and sure enough, that thing is still out in the woods, whatever it is. So I got to catch whatever it was, the sound of it running through the woods still, following me out of the woods. But as far as that goes, that's all that happened. And I was like, well, I should probably get the hell out of here. I didn't realize I didn't catch any of the footage until after I got home. And that honestly upsets me to this day.
Yeah, I'd say 19 hours of excitement. Like, yes.
I had actually gone down there for a few other reasons, but I was like, if I'm going down to Texas, I'm going to the Goatman's Bridge.
Oh, yeah.
I can't say
Yeah.
no to that.
For sure. No.
Also, I'd like to point out, being the top Hollow Cult member, I know Steve and Kyle constantly talk about don't go into the woods, and you even had signs telling you not to go into the woods. You will die if you go, but you still went into the woods, Burton.
I did. And I've been asked, why did you go into the woods? And that's kind of my thing,
Yeah.
you know? And of course, I didn't even think about rattlesnakes, all the other animals that they got in those woods. But all my mind is thinking is maybe I'll run into a Satanist cult. That'd be kind of neat.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's what people do is you just go out in the woods frolicking on an expedition for satanic cults. I mean,
Exactly.
Why not? Why not?
Hey, you don't turn back whenever they tell you to turn back. That's where the good
No.
stuff is.
No, for sure. For sure.
I take no responsibility for anybody who took that advice.
That's just what you do.
Yeah,
'Cause,
he's not
Burton-
telling you people to go into dark caves and shit. That's
Burton woke up that morning. He poured him a bowl of cereal. He took a leak. Probably not in that order, but
No.
that's what happened. Brushed his teeth, hopefully after the bowl of cereal. Looked at himself in the mirror, smacked his right cheek with his right hand twice, and said, "Berton Moran, today you're living dangerously."
yeah. That's,
And then he karate chopped the mirror in half and walked out the door.
you literally just explained my morning ritual every day. That's
what-
my morning. That's what I do every day, except
Yeah.
for the mirror, because you don't break
There-
mirrors. That's stupid.
What Burton does, he don't care.
That's bad
He-
luck. Don't
He
do that.
he DGAF, son.
Actually, to be honest with you, the reason that we went down to Texas the first place, I don't know, you guys like horror movies?
Yeah.
Okay, the reason we went down there in the first place was, you ever heard of Texas Frightmare Weekend?
Yes.
Yep.
So that's what we went down there for, was Texas Frightmare Weekend. So the day before, I met Tom Savini and the guy who played Billy in Scream, the Ghostface.
Oh, awesome.
Dude, that's awesome.
I met him. I talked to the girl who played Emily Kenny on Emily Kenny, who played Beth on The Walking Dead.
That is
I
awesome.
met a bunch of cool horror people. Then the next day, I was like, well, I'm still in the Dallas area. I'm going to go to the Goatman's Bridge.
Yeah.
Of course, left the kids at the hotel, obviously not by themselves. So you got to go and do that, a little adventure.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet, man. It really is pretty sweet. Well, Burton, we'll since Ryan got to ask his question, we'll just jump right into it, man. I know that you've got quite a few experiences. We'll let you deliver those, and you can talk about whatever, your own adventures or investigations that you've went on. If you want to get into some personal things, you can. There is one particular experience that I really want to talk about. The sighting that you messaged me about the other day. But we'll just let you run it, man. You talk about your experiences in whatever order that you want to talk about them in, and we're just here to listen and enjoy, brother.
All right. Well, where to begin? It's always a terrible way to start. I'm thinking about this because I grew up in a haunted house. And it wasn't like malevolent, evil spirits. It was literally just an old lady. And I think I talked about this on the podcast with the boys over at the Hollow Sky, about the old lady that would show up in my brother's room, walk into the bathroom, or start from the bathroom, walk into my brother's room, back to the bathroom, and then she would just disappear. And that happened like every night. So that was probably the first one, because I was like 5 years old. I remember seeing this glowing light, and my parents saw the light. I used to sneak into their room, sleep on the floor next to my mom. I was a little kid. And one day my brother wakes up and he comes into the room and he wakes up my parents and says, "Who's the old lady?" My mom's like, "What the hell are you talking about? Who's the old lady that keeps coming in my room, waking me up in the night?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" Well, she always comes from the bathroom, goes back and disappears, and like, no idea. And it happened damn near every night. And sure enough, my dad saw it, my mom saw it, and it started to happen during the day. Even when my dad would have friends over, they'd be drinking coffee, they'd be conversating, talking. And I remember one time this guy says to my dad, "Oh, I didn't realize you had company over." My mother is a white woman. He was half native. And he's like, What are you talking about? Well, I just saw the old lady in the bathroom over there. I thought it was like your mother-in-law's in town. My mom's not. Oh, no. He said, no, I know you. That's a ghost. And of course, this conversation's always turned to, fuck you. Who do you think I am? You ain't gonna mess with me. Sorry about this. I do cuss quite a bit, and I try not to, but
no worries here, man.
So my dad's favorite thing to do is like, go look. I'm not gonna lie to you. So they'd get up, they go look, they come back. Well, I gotta go. And it's notable to say that we lived 5 miles from town in a very small town. My dad owned a junkyard. So it wasn't like some random person was just walking into our house. And another time, this was in high school, a little bit more memorable for me because I was probably 16, 17 at the time. And I was doing homework in my living room. And I look down the hallway and I see this little boy popping his head around the corner looking at me. And I'm thinking to myself, my dad has company over. Somebody stopped in to drink coffee and have conversations with them. And usually whenever that happened, it was my responsibility to go get the kid, bring him in the living room, turn on cartoons for him, whatever. Otherwise, it's kind of like, you should come get those kids, get them out of our way. We're talking. We're adults. Whatever. So I go out there to get the kid, bring him in, watch cartoons with him. But I go out there and all there is my mom doing dishes. So I'm like, who's here? And she says, oh, your dad's in town playing gambling machines, and your brother's over there sleeping over at the White Buffalo's house. I'm like, okay, but who's the little kid? What little kid? A little kid I was just freaking staring down in the hallway. There's nobody here. It's just me and you. And I remember my hair sticking up in the back of my neck. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Because it wasn't like a quick little head bob. It was me and this kid looked at each other for probably about a good 30 seconds.
Dang.
I'm like, well, are you going to come over here, kid, or what's the deal, Then he disappeared back in the room, and I'm like, okay. And I've had people ask, well, how do you know this kid just didn't come into your house? I'm like, well, it would have been 5-mile trek one way. So,
yeah.
That was always an interesting one. I actually had just had a conversation with Steve and Kyle at the Van Meter Visitor Festival. We were talking about cryptids and things like that happened, and I brought up a conversation. My brother Henry, he's pretty avid hunter. I don't know if he'll let me talking about him, but I'm going to. He's a hunting guide. These guys, they fly him out to Texas every year to go hunting down there, and they fly him to Canada to go hunt bear and all that stuff, all legally, of course. And whenever he was in high school, he went out hunting one day and didn't get a damn thing. But when he first left, there was a coyote there, and he shot this coyote. And to get a little gruesome with you, he actually blew the top of the skull off of this coyote.
Dang.
And the brain had been hanging out in this thing. He threw it in the back of his truck. It's dead. It's dead all day. He'd been driving literally all day hunting, trying to find something. Didn't get nothing. Comes back home. Sun's going down. You get a deer? He's like, nah, I didn't get a deer, but I got a coyote if you guys want to come check that out. So we all jump up, start walking out to his truck, and we don't even get to the back of his truck. This thing stood up, brain hanging out, jumped out of that truck, headed straight for a field, and we never did see it again.
Holy crap.
And to quote Steve here, he said, that weren't no deer, brother. Or that weren't no coyotes, what he said. That ain't no coyote. That's something else. I was like, yeah. Yeah, now I think about it, because back then I never thought about anything like that.
That's like
what was it?
That's a were-yodi.
It's
Holy
something
crap.
else. Yeah. And that's like one of the conversations we have that people are like, you're kidding me. It was interesting for sure, because how are you going to have your brain hanging out, sitting in the back of a truck literally all day, flies flying around you, and you're just going to get up like nothing and run out? Like, oh, I better get out of here now. He's not by himself anymore or something. It's weird.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's hard to explain. I mean, I could see, if it was like originally shot and some brains hanging out or whatever, and he goes up to it and getting ready to collect it or whatever, and then it jumps up and takes off. Like some last ditch survival effort, and it's a brainstem saying, "Hey, just run, 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 run."
Yeah.
But to be in the back of a truck all day long and flies buzzing, I think I'm with Steve on this one. That wasn't no yote. Well,
There were no
no,
Yodi.
no,
No.
I don't think so.
So I don't know if he'll appreciate me that. He usually doesn't like to be heard or talked about, but I'm going to talk about him. So I talked about him there.
For the sake of the show, he'll be okay.
I'm the youngest of 12, so I'm only picking on one, really.
Oh,
Youngest of 12? Oh, wow, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So as every single one of them would have told you, I'm the baby, so I got babied.
You might have got baby, but I bet you got beat up a lot, too.
You damn right I did. They act
That's
like they didn't. No, it never happened. Bullshit.
That is why you're so dangerous today. That's why you're walking into woods at the Goatman's Bridge, because you had 11 older siblings. Holy crap.
You ever had two brothers on a nipple apiece and another one giving you a wedgie, goat man? I don't fucking think so. Back off, bitch.
Come at me, goat man. Come at me. No,
Come at me, goat man.
we want to talk about Henry picking on me when I was a kid. He was obviously the older one. I have another brother who's just a little bit older than me, a year and 3 days to be exact. He used to pick Harold up, the other one, and body slam him onto the bed, wrestling style. You know, we just get done watching WCW or something. He'd get up and start giggling. Every time he picked me up to do the same thing, my head would bounce off the backboard. Every time. I'm like, man, what did I do to you?
So we're figuring out that all these ghostly apparition sightings was really just severe head trauma.
Oh, could be. Hey, I might not even be talking to anybody right now. I might just be in the corner.
We may not exist, Berton.
Oh, it's all figment of my imagination.
Figment of the mind of Berton.
I think we actually discussed this with Stephen Kyle once before about not existing or everybody being a figment of my imagination. But what if you're all a figment of my imagination and I'm a figment of Berton's imagination?
Oh my God. That's like Inception of the mind.
Whose imagination am I a figment of?
Me.
I want to be included too. Don't leave me out.
I said all you guys are a figment of my imagination, remember?
Oh.
And I'm a figment of Berton's imagination.
So,
whoa.
Look, we can't get into that. It's too late for me to think that hard. It's going to hurt my brain.
Wait, what? It's got to be your bull.
Yeah. Well, no, Berton, I guess what I would like to ask there is those experiences when you were younger, is that kind of what jump started you into the weird? Because, you know, you have like two different routes that people take. You have the route actually that I took, and I was kind of the prodigal son to the paranormal. That's pretty good. I'm going to use that.
I like that. That's good.
Because I had all these paranormal experiences when I was younger. You know, they climax, they hit that peak at about 17 years old, and then I ran away from it, dude. I wouldn't watch a horror movie. I wouldn't like any spooky thing anybody was talking about. I just tuned out because for me, it was literally like paranormal PTSD. Like I didn't want to me, it was like, if I think about it, then I'm going to relive it. So absolutely. You have those two different routes, it seems like you have people that have these experiences when they're younger and it just drives them into the weird. And then you have people kind of like me that have these experiences and it drives them completely away from it. They don't want anything to do with it for a while. Anyway, I came back
for a while.
I came back. So I guess what I'm asking is that those experiences, is that what got you interested in the weird, into the paranormal?
Yeah, I'd say so. Kind of like you, I'm not gonna lie. You've heard the stories I've had with those guys over there at the other podcast, and mainly the demon story is probably the one that made me do what you did and stay away from it for a while.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, every time somebody started telling about a ghost story, I'd stop whatever I was doing because I have to listen to this. You know, this is something that really interests me. So I guess in a way, yeah, I ran towards it. I mean, the way I explain it to a couple people is that the paranormal came looking for me, so now I'm looking for the paranormal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You coming at me, I'm coming at you. So, you know, I don't know. It's just something about ghost stories, cryptids, sightings, anything like that, that it's interesting. It's honestly the most interesting stuff.
They're fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the same to me. It's just like anybody that's a fan of Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, which I am a fan of all that. It's that fantasy level. Whereas this could be, well, I know I'm kind of a skeptic, but to me, it could still be like this stuff could actually. I know Frodo and Bilbo aren't out here fucking around, but Bigfoot might be, you know?
Right,
So
right.
there's been
Ah,
so many people with sightings and things like not everybody can be lying.
my question is, I've been studying up and I've been listening to stories of the Appalachian area. Am I saying that right? I've heard people say
Yeah,
Appalachian.
you're
Yeah,
good.
it's
That's
Appalachian.
Appalachian.
it's Appalachian. You were right the first
I'm
time.
going with Appalachian. That just sounds better off the tongue, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it does.
I'm coming across a lot of stories, and I said to myself, these boys invited me onto their podcast, and I have to ask, down there, is it a pretty common thing to hear about what's called a knot deer?
Yes.
I knew that's where you were going with that.
I
Not
was actually
only,
going to say that coyote was a not coyote, not a not deer.
yeah,
That's
you
like,
know, not only is that a common, it seems like we're on. It seems like this keeps coming up. So I think it's something that I'm really, really going to have to dig deep into. I remember being a little kid and hearing my uncles talk about hunting and fishing and being in the woods, ginsenging and doing all of this stuff out in the woods and coming across these animals, not just deer, but coming across these animals that didn't really act like normal animal behavior. So, I remember hearing all these stories as a kid, but the actual term not deer, I didn't hear until the rise of the internet, a few years
yeah.
ago. And then it's one of those things. Well, was this just blossomed and created from the rise of the internet, or is this something that's always existed and transpired, But I do remember those stories when I was a kid. But I'll actually, I kind of have, and this just happened a few nights ago. I haven't even told Ryan about this one. I went to, my son was at no, I'm lying. It was Thursday evening, October the 27th. That was my oldest daughter's birthday. And that day we had a small little get together, just a little dinner. We got together, had some kids, my oldest daughter's boyfriend, my son's girlfriend. They were all here. We were all carving pumpkins. And just kind of having a little birthday / Halloween celebration, all this different stuff. So we got done that night. It was late. And my son, he just got his license, a few months ago. So he's still, trying to get that comfort level, driving at night, driving, in kind of inclement weather, foggy conditions, all that different stuff. So I just told him that, and I was like, look, I'll go with you. I'll drive, we'll take her back home. Well, we take her home, and on the way back home, we're winding around, and Ryan, you'll know where I'm talking about. It's the Lake Road coming back, like from Clintwood back over to Big Ridge. And this road it's literally like all wrapped around a local lake here. But dude, it's so curvy and mountainous, and there's animals, wildlife, deer everywhere. It's like every curve you go by. Well, me and my son, we're talking about just weird stuff because that's what we do. He enjoys all this stuff like I do. And I'd actually just said, hey man, why don't we just stop by here and go down and hang out by the lake for a little while and see if we can see any UFOs. Literally just said, come on.
Now who's the one doing dangerous stuff, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
we're in the woods. We don't have a choice. That's where we live.
Exactly.
We can't
awesome.
enter the woods. We have to exit
You're already
the
there.
woods. Yeah.
We have to leave the woods to go somewhere.
Dude, that sounds amazing. I'm not even gonna lie. I love it.
It's pretty awesome. But we come across this curve, and there's this deer standing in the middle of the road. So I come up on it. It stops. Like a deer in the headlights, literally. It stops there, but then it like looks at us, and to me it makes eye contact, and I was like, go on, dude, because it was just standing there, wouldn't move. So I kind of went forward a little bit, and I said, dude, it was a doe. I went forward a little bit, and she finally started moving a little bit, but she was dragging her back leg, but not dragging her back leg like hopping on it or what looked to be like an injury, but like a weird, I don't even know, man. It was like you see like zombies on The Walking Dead and how they're dragging a leg around and moving. That's how this thing was moving. Like it was just like it wasn't moving the way a deer should move. And then it finally gets over to the guardrail, and we're still watching it because the road is too narrow to kind of whip around and go by. You're in blind curves everywhere. So we're still watching it. It gets over to the guardrail, stops again, looks back over at us again, and then instead of, you see a deer on the road, it gets to the guardrail, it jumps the guardrail, right? That's what deer do. This thing picks up one leg at a time over the guardrail. Front right leg, left right leg, shimmies its belly up the guardrail, back leg. It was weird, dude. It was weird. And it was one of those things, I didn't say a word. Connor didn't say a word. We probably get 5-10 minutes down the road. Neither one of us said another word. And finally he says, are we going to talk about that deer, or are we just going to let it go?
Oh, my God.
Maybe he got hit by a car or something.
That's totally possible.
Yeah,
that
possible.
Is totally possible.
100% possible.
But
we have one on
weird.
Greenbrier right here where I live. We have one on this road I see all the time going to and coming home from work, and it's got a really bad limp. I'm pretty sure it got hit. But this that's so funny, dude. You just made me think. When I was a teenager, I'm in high school. My dad and my brother were all at the cabin hunting. Now, we had a buck over there that roamed the property for a long time. We just called him the Biggin because it was a 12-pointer and he was just absolutely massive. Well, my dad and my brother, I'm pretty sure it was them. I'm trying to think of who told this story, but I want to say it was my dad and my brother. But behind the cabin, you got these two ridge lines that kind of V up, right? So in the center of that, you can watch both. And there's just this little hump, right? Like they're up at that V, and Dad sees that deer coming. That deer does like a zigzag pattern, and then goes behind that hump. But Dad said you could still see its antlers. He said, and then it was like it sat down. They sat there till dark, and there's nowhere this thing could go. Because if you keep walking past that hump, you'll eventually come back in the sight. Because, it's just a little hump, and then the ridgeline kicks back out. So if you walk straight away from them, eventually they'll see you again. If you go left or right, they'll see you. They never seen that deer again.
Oh, my.
Dad said he could see its antlers. He was scoping it as it was behind that little hump. He said you could still see the antlers. He said then it was like it laid down. And then they never seen it again.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I never knew the term not deer then,
Right.
Until now. And then you guys are talking about it, and I'm like, holy crap, I remember that now.
The interesting thing about it is that after I heard about it from the Appalachian area of the not deer, I've heard at least one story where a similar thing happened here in South Dakota with somebody up to the northern part, where I've been wanting to go because there's this haunted forest there. And I've been told that I can't go there by my wife. She said that if I go there, don't come home because this thing is supposedly haunted by not only ghosts and spirits, but also there's supposed to be a Wendigo and skinwalkers and all kinds of stuff there. Wow. So I'm like, man, wouldn't that be great to just go over there and spend the night though? Like just set up a tent and just like spend the night in this place, because like one of the big stories of it is you go into it's called the Sicha Hollow Woods. Sicha, S-I-C-A, but it's pronounced Sicha Hollow Woods. And you go in there, you you're spending the night, whatever you're doing there. Anybody can camp there for free, basically. And they say that you'll start to see another person's fire not too far from your campsite. So you decide you're going to walk over there and, hey, what's going on to these people? You get over there and the fire's not there anymore. And now you're out in the middle of the woods in the dark. And you start to hear this drum, like a Native American drum beat. Bump, 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 kind of thing. And you're like, what the hell is that? And then you start to hear voices. And that's like the whole thing I've always heard about this place. And I'm like, wouldn't that be something to freaking happen? Like, to experience that would be both terrifying and amazing all at the same time. And I've been told I'm not allowed to go out there because she thinks that a skinwalker is going to get me, and I'm not going to be the thing that's coming home. It's going to be something else. But I've heard stories after I was investigating or listening, watching videos, reading up on your guys' thing about the knot deer, where somebody in that area saw a deer and a herd of deer walking across the road late at night. The legs were bent backwards on this thing, but it was walking forward. And they headed out. They're like, I don't know what the hell that was, but it wasn't a deer. And I'm thinking, man, I've never heard of that until I was like reading up on your guys' stuff. And then, like, from my understanding, over in the Appalachian area, it's a pretty like common thing.
Yeah. Well, people talk about it quite a bit.
You hear stories all the time of guys like, there's no way I missed this deer. There's no way I missed this deer. Like, I could hear the thud when I shot this thing. Because when you're hunting with a bow or a gun, you hear that distinctive, if you've hunted long enough, you hear that distinctive little, just that little rip, that little thud. They're like, there's no way I missed it. And no blood, no deer, no nothing. It's crazy.
That's so crazy.
Talking about Wendigo and Skinwalker. Now, South Dakota, if I'm not mistaken, as far as Native Americans are concerned, it's mostly Sioux and Lakota.
Yep.
And Lakota, like, Skinwalker's big in their beliefs, right? I think it's Lakota.
Yep, it's Lakota. I'm part of the Rosebud Sioux tribe myself. I'm an enrolled member.
Oh, sweet.
Since my father was half Native and all that. And so I actually grew up. Technically, the land I grew up on was reservation, and I went to school with a bunch of kids that also lived on the reservation. So, went and hung out with a bunch of them all the time.
Nice. My great, I can't remember how many greats, but my grandmother, she's great, but she was like full Cherokee. Like, my sisters look like that. I do not. I took after the Irish Scandinavian side of my dad's family.
It is what it is. I get that look whenever I tell people I'm enrolled in the tribe. They're like, you? I know, right?
But like Justin can tell you, my sisters, they're dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes. We don't look anything like.
Yeah.
I have hazel eyes, so I get that.
Ryan got more of that European vibe.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a drunk Viking running around.
Well, no, man, I think that's really interesting too, because, you look at all of these different things, a lot of the legends and the stuff that you cover and, the things that we talk about here. And that's what you kind of look at because, as far as we know, now I have my theories and personal beliefs about, who roamed North America at certain points in time. But as far as we know, the natives, they're called natives for a reason. Yeah. They were here first.
Yeah.
Now, you do have some tribes like the Shawnee in our area that say, no. When we got here, there were these weird humanoid, super white, pale skin, moon-eyed
Welsh-speaking bastards.
Yeah, they were here first. You have like the Adena and the Hopewell, or what has been dubbed the Adena and the Hopewell, that built the mounds and all that stuff, like in the Ohio River Valley and, all of that, the Shawnee that are there. And there's a couple different tribes that are around there, but I think that it's mainly Shawnee. They'll say, we didn't build these. there was this race of red-headed giants that were here when we got here that built these mounds. So, but regardless of all that, I'm kind of getting down a different rabbit hole here. Regardless of all that, the natives and their beliefs and their spirituality and the way they thought about the physical world and the spiritual world, it's not like the way that we think about it, in modern times. We look at it as two totally separate things. Like, we live in the physical world, one day we'll die, and then something happens. That's the whole spiritual side of it. That's not how the natives believed. That the physical world and the spiritual world were one and the same, and that's how they operated. So it's really interesting that, in places like where you live in South Dakota and places like where we are, even though there weren't really any settlements here full time because they called it cursed, dark, bloody ground.
We'll take it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I think it's just so interesting how you find these places throughout the U.S., especially, that there's so much native lore there. And today, that's what I would call the hot spots, the paranormal hot spots in the U.S. I think, to me, that's just so interesting.
Absolutely. Well, it's like kind of like national parks and stuff like that. People go missing all the time, and you're not really out there all the time. And it's untouched, basically, by man. It's not as modern as, it's still nature. And there's something spiritual about that. I remember, oh man, I could go off on a tangent.
Do it.
Yeah.
Hearing about these people or the scientist guy who talks about how people who are walking in shoes now, we're not in touch with nature as we used to be when we used to walk around barefoot.
Yeah, grounding.
Yeah, that's it. And how interesting that is, because I feel like that's actually a true thing, and it's also a spiritual thing. But at the same time, we're walking around because our feet get hurt really sensitive now because we wear shoes and all kinds of stuff. But
yeah,
but like you said, all those
go barefooted.
like you guys have obviously the Appalachian Mountains and all that amazing forestry out there, and we have the Badlands here in South Dakota, and that's just rocky terrain. And fun fact about the Badlands, you've seen the movie Armageddon?
Mm-hmm.
And they were on that asteroid, and they told themselves, we want to make this place look like the most uninhabitable place ever. How do we do that? We'll film it in the Badlands. And that's what they did. They came out to South Dakota, and that's where they filmed the asteroid. It was actually on my brother's mother-in-law's land. She was actually part of it. She got to meet all those people back in the day whenever they filmed Armageddon. And they reference it once in the movie, which is kind of funny because whenever they're rounding up all the guys to go on this asteroid, they say, oh, you find this guy in Kadoka, South Dakota. And that's where they filmed it. It wasn't in Kadoka, South Dakota. There's a little hidden Easter egg for that movie. But yeah, it's like rough terrain and legends, just all kinds of urban legends around here. Things that people can't explain, and it's pretty neat, pretty awesome.
Yeah,
like
that is really, really cool.
These places are like the paranormal hotspots, it seems.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's really interesting. It opens up a whole line of thinking for me, which would be a whole nother episode. But that's not what we're here for. It's a great conversation. But we want to hear more about Berton's experiences. I told you, we get off on tangents.
We do. Okay.
So let me ask you, Berton, and throughout your investigations, throughout your time spent, conducting, experimenting in the paranormal, what is the scariest or weirdest? What's the most intense moment that you've had throughout that time?
Now that's a lot, because if we're talking paranormal, then it has to be one of the not millions. I haven't done a million investigations. I say millions, but it feels like a million. a lot of times where you get like responses or something will move. You're not expected for that. And probably the most intense paranormal thing happened off camera whenever I was still in high school, and that whole demon story I told on the Hollow Sky podcast. Because
why don't you go ahead? Why don't you get into a little bit of that? You don't have to.
For the hill folk that haven't listened, as it were. When I was in high school, I moved out of my parents' house. I turned 18. I moved out. I still had 1 year left of school. I moved down to Rapid City, which is 100% the Black Hills, where Mount Rushmore is, all that. Well, my parents, they used to foster children. Not all the time, but sometimes. For 2 years, we had this family living with us. And I won't say his name because of what happens in the story, but we grew really attached, kind of like brothers do. You know, even though you're not blood, you're still brothers. You're still family. Especially whenever they're the same age as you, living under the same roof as you. Well, eventually his state took him back. He went back to his parents, and it is what it is. I didn't really see him after that. Well, after I moved out, my parents, we were having button heads and we were having fights, and said, you know what, I'm 18 now. I don't really need to take this crap. And I moved out, went to Rapid City, and I was living with a cousin. Still going to school, still doing all that. And we're at my cousin's aunt's house, so no relation to me at all. I'm in the basement, and I'm doing laundry. And my mom calls me to inform me that that brother of mine, not a family member, committed suicide. And obviously, being a teenager or even an adult, who am I to say? I got very upset, very emotional. And I grabbed the laundry after that phone call, and I just mad at the world, really. And I threw the clothes across the room, and I was just pissed off. And I go upstairs, and I'm sitting there, and, it's on my mind, heavier than hell, and I can't stop thinking about it. And everybody there, my cousin, his girlfriend, and a couple other kids, his aunt actually was a foster care person. So kind of full circle in the story on that one, actually. So, they're kind of like, I don't really want to be around Bert right now. He kind of seems like he's in a pissy mood. And I was, 100%. So they all go to the back room or whatever, and his aunt asked me, what's going on? And I didn't really want to talk about it, but she kept, I can see something's bothering you. So I tell her, the same thing I told you guys. Kid that I grew up with, I really cared about him, and he committed suicide. And I start to get emotional, I'm really sad, really upset. I start crying. And she's sitting there, she's listening, and she's like, I understand. And you start getting that feeling. I don't know if you had ever been in a bar fight or anything like that, or somebody's just been pissed off at you where they're just eyeballing you across the room, and you're about to get your ass handed to you, or you're about to deliver an ass whooping yourself. And I get that feeling like somebody's just fucking staring at me. And it gets intense. Like, hair on the back of my neck standing up. I don't know what it is. It's almost like a burning. And I ask her that, do you ever get that feeling that somebody's just like staring at you? And she stops looking down. She's looking down at the point. I say that, and she stops. She looks straight up. Where? So I point to her kitchen. And as soon as I point to the kitchen, she looks over there. All the plates start flying off the shelves. The cupboard doors open up. Things are just, hell's unleashed at this point. Things are just going crazy. She calmly, very calmly, doesn't say a thing. Gets up, walks over to a shelf she has in the living room, old cigar box looking thing, opens it up, pulls out some sage that's with a lighter in there, starts burning the sage, walking into her kitchen, and almost like somebody turning off a faucet, though, it starts to stop. And whatever it is, she walks back down into that basement, through the kitchen down into the basement. She locks the door, or she'll close the door, comes back up and says, did you get emotional in the basement? Yeah, I threw my laundry across the room. I was pissed. And she's like, yeah, it saw you were vulnerable and it's trying to attach itself to you. And of course, at this point, all the blood's out of my face. I'm pale white. I'm just like shaking, looking around. What just happened? She tells me, honestly, I think it's a demon. It's been in this house for a long time. And, all like commotion. The kids come out after she comes back and they're all like, well, what happened? What's going on? They probably thought I was having a fit throwing shit around. And they're all like, oh, it's whatever it was in the basement is up here. And they all like, oh, okay. And I'm like, what do you mean, okay? What do you mean, like, oh, yeah, it's Tuesday? No, it's not just Tuesday. what the hell was that? And oh, we think it's a demon. And she's told me that honestly, it's taken over a few of these kids before. And there was this kid that was there. I won't say his name because I don't want to have him. Oh, I didn't give you permission to talk about me. But they told me the story about one of her foster kids that he weighed maybe 110 pounds, soaking wet. He was a super skinny kid. So he came home and he did a similar thing. He got super pissed off, and eventually he wasn't himself anymore. And I had to perform some sort of an exorcism on this kid. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And she tells me, and not to be mean to her, she was a heavier lady. She said, I sat on him trying to hold him down. He lifted my ass up. I said, how is that even possible? She's like, wasn't him. Was not him. But whatever it is, I keep it in the basement. And honestly, for the most part, as long as you're okay down there, it doesn't bother you. And my cousin's like, are you still okay to spend the night here? I was like, no, I'm not spending the night here. So at that point, it's like, fuck yourself. I'm not spending the night where this just happened. So as far as paranormal goes, that's the most intense thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And if I ever experience anything like that again, my fucking battery better not die on my camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
That would be a real pisser.
So I guess if you go from that context of seeing that firsthand to walking into a woods where supposedly Goat Man is, I'm like, yeah, I'll walk in. Why not? What's going to happen? Nothing I ain't really fucking been afraid of before. But as far as non-paranormal, the thing that probably happened, that's probably the scariest thing that ever shook me to my core, is having to stare down a mountain lion.
Ooh.
So that's, yeah, that was,
yeah, I think I'll just take the demon.
right. Because that was one thing. I was lucky enough not to be terrible close to this thing, but at the same time, it was close enough where I remember getting back to my car and just having my hands just shaking.
Yeah, I
like,
bet.
Wow. And that
to
was
me, that is the scariest thing in the woods is a big cat. That's terrifying.
Yeah. In North America, that to me, I don't give a shit about bears. I don't care about any of that. It's mountain lion. They terrify me. You'll never hear them.
Nope.
Not around here. You would never hear them around. And I don't give a shit what people say. They're not in these mountains. I know, and people can call me whatever they want. I have seen them.
Yeah.
And a guy out in Tazewell, Virginia, who I used to rent off of, owned some land up towards West Virginia, and he showed me the trail cam pictures of a mother with cubs. He says she has these every 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, there's a dude that goes up once every couple years and puts trail cams up like in the Wise area around here. And man, he's got tons of trail cam pictures. Black, brown, golden ones, spotted ones that literally look almost like a leopard or something like that. Like crazy, dude. It's crazy. Well, Lance tells a story on here every now and then where he was getting ready to pick that one up and put it in the trunk of his car that was hit in the middle of the road. And he drove on by and got down the road a little ways and was like, screw it. I'm going back and getting it because people say these things don't exist. And like, here it was. It was this huge, big cat in the middle of the road. Well, when he went back, it was gone. Like nobody else had come behind him. It was gone. It had gotten back up and left.
No.
Oh my God.
No, thank you.
I said, Lance, if you'd have picked this thing up, it would have tore your throat out.
That's exactly what they do. They go straight for the throat.
Yeah.
That is their move. That is their freaking kill shot.
Yeah, so I don't know what's more intense, Burton, that mountain lion story or the demon story.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're both pretty intense.
Yeah, those are probably my most intense.
Wow. That's ugh.
The mountain lion thing happened up in Deadwood, South Dakota.
That's a great place name.
Hey, man,
Deadwood, South Dakota.
100%. There's a show named after Deadwood.
Yeah, Deadwood.
It's about Seth Bullock, who is the sheriff down there, and Wild Bill and all that.
Yes, I remember
I was on my way up to actually investigate that cemetery, and that's where we were. That damn thing.
Wait.
That damn
See,
thing.
when we drove, we lived in Pennsylvania when we went to Alaska, but we drove through North Dakota. I actually wanted to see the Black Hills, but that wasn't the route we were going. And when we came back, we took a completely different route. So,
Man.
but yeah, North Dakota is basically nothing. Like
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt State Park was beautiful, but it's like when you enter it, before you enter that, it's nothing, just tumbleweed and road. And then you'll see a cluster of trees because somebody has a house there. They planted
Yeah.
these trees to build these
Yep.
houses, or when they built their houses, because there's no trees.
Yeah.
And then it says, "Welcome to Theodore Roosevelt State Park, National Park, or whatever." And I'm telling you, the fields, the rolling green hills, and you're like, "What the hell just happened?" And then after
Yeah.
you leave, it's just back to dust. Like, that's the weirdest fucking thing I've ever done. It's like we drove to a time warp.
Yeah. That's South Dakota is divided into two sides of the state, West River and East River. And I didn't know that until I moved to East River, and everybody's giving me shit. Oh, you're West River. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? But the big Missouri goes right through the center of South Dakota. So everybody on West River has the Black Hills and all that, and Deadwood and all the hills. But if you come over to East River, it's the flattest part of the state, man. It's like nothing. It's nothing over here.
It was shocking to see, because even like Ohio's pretty flat, but there's like hills, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm telling you, North Dakota, like you're looking up into freaking British Columbia from there, because it's freaking. I'll tell you this: we come up on a road sign at night. It said 26 or 27 miles to this city, and I could see the lights.
Yep.
I'm like, that's not.
That's
Like,
how it
these
is
road
around
signs
here.
are off. I was like, but it was every bit of 26, 27 miles, and I could see the lights of the city. It was
100%.
nuts.
That's how it is here in South Dakota. You can, at least on this side of the state for sure, is that you can see forever. Oh, how far away is that? That's 30 miles. That's 30 miles that way still? I can see like all the lights. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's
My
nuts.
neighbor lives 150 yards away, and I can't see their lights right now.
Oh my God. That's something else.
That's the woods, man.
I've been to Indiana,
Yeah,
and I remember they call it something about no land and no sky or something like that, because how big the trees are and stuff there. And I was like,
yep.
it's beautiful though.
Oh,
God,
it is.
I love being
It
in the
is.
woods.
Well, speaking of, I mean that little tangent kind of messed up my segue. It was really leading up nicely too.
Oh, man,
but
I'm so sorry.
but speaking of finding weird animals in the middle of the road, let's get into, for me, the main reason we're all here tonight, Burton.
Yep.
Let's get into to your sighting with was it your girlfriend at the time?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Let's get into that if you wouldn't mind, sir.
Absolutely. So, obviously, I've told you guys I've grown up on the reservation. I am part Native American, and my parents used to tell a story. And they told me the story when I was a teenager, so the idea that they were telling me this to be a good kid is already out the window. Because I was already too old for this kind of bullshit stories that you think that that's what this is. But I was told this story when I was a teenager about this woman who had a kid, and they lived in a trailer house, that her young son, probably like 5 years old or something, was being bad. He wouldn't listen, throwing fits. So she says, I'm going to put you outside, and I'm going to let that big owl get you. And the little kid starts screaming, no. And of course, he's not being good. The mom thinks that she's going to pull a little prank on him and throw him out the door for a second, close the door and open the door, and he's going to start being a good kid. So she throws him out the door, and she closes it. And by the time she opens that door, almost instantly, that kid is gone. And whatever it is taking this kid. This owl is what they're told. And of course, it's one of those stories that like makes your hair stand up a little bit. Like, is this a true story? Because it sounds, if I remember correctly, my mom and dad said they knew a woman that this happened to. And I'm thinking to myself, that's got to be bullshit. And then they also told me, you got to keep your eyes out, because another part of the story is that if you've never heard of this story before, it's going to show itself to you. And honestly, it didn't show itself to me that time. I did not see this damn thing, but I remembered the story. So, me and Cassie, wife, now, 2016, years ago, feels like not that long ago at all, really. But we're down in Gregory, South Dakota, visiting my aunt, and my parents are down there, and it's like only like 2 hours from where we live, so we went down there to visit them. And it's in the middle of nowhere. There's some hills and some rolling hills and some pretty nice stuff out there, but we're on these backcountry roads and still highway roads, but dirt roads and highway roads. So, sorry, burped. So, we're sitting there, nothing to really do, listen to radio and talk bullshit. So I start telling them a story about this owl that takes these kids, and if you're not good, it comes to take yourself. And I said, one of the things is that if you've never heard the story before, it shows itself to you. I get done telling her the story and all that, and she looks at me and she says, "What a load of horse shit. What kind of bullshit story was that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just telling you what I was told." And she's like, "Okay," rolls her eyes at me. And of course, I've told her stories about coyotes standing up in the back of trucks, jumping out with their brains hanging out. She will never believe it, kind of things. So we get down the road another 5 miles. We come to this 4-way stop in the road. And on the corner is this fucking owl. And this owl is not like, oh, look, a little owl. No, it's not like on a fence post. It's standing in the ditch. This thing was huge. Okay. And we were in a 2001 Oldsmobile Alero, and this thing stood over the car for sure. And we're rounding the corner, and we're close to this thing. We're probably within 10 feet because it's in the ditch. And the entire time we're going around the corner, it's eyeballing us with its head on a rotation, watching the car. I'm right next to this thing, and I'm basically at a stop because I'm like, look at the size of this fucking thing. And it's eyeballing us, and I have the great idea. I'm going to honk the horn at this thing, see what happens. So I honk the horn, and almost like it was trying to show itself to me, it opened its wings as soon as I did that. It didn't fly. It just opened its wings to show, I'm here, motherfucker. And it just eyeballed us the whole time. As soon as its wings shot open, Cassie just about jumped in my seat. Oh, holy Christ, because this thing's closer to her side than it was on my side. And I tell you, the wingspan on this thing had to have been longer than our car. And it had to have been at least a little over 6 foot tall. And I've never seen a bird like that. I've never seen anything like that. And, we get down the road like that, and she's shaking. I'm shaking. I'm like, what is that? What the hell? And she starts thinking back. She's like, that story you just told me lines up like 100% with this thing. And I'm like, my eyes are just fixed on the road. I'm just like, let's just get the hell out of here kind of thing. But to this point, even to this day, like we think about that. And she says, before I met you, I never believed like Bigfoot could be real or a Wendigo could be real. But after seeing a giant fucking owl with my own eyes right next to me, after a story like that, I'm a little, I believe something could happen. Something could be real. Something could be out there. Because seeing is believing at that point. And I tell you, this thing was huge. So of course, what do? We jump on the internet. We're looking. What's the biggest owl? They ain't that big. The closest thing I could tell you that gets that almost that size was, I believe it's called a harpy eagle. And if you ever looked up those, they look very similar to an owl, but they weren't no damn harpy eagle. And if it was, it's the biggest fucking one recorded because the thing is huge. But owls don't get that big, not any natural owl. And the crazy thing about it was the way it was staring at us. As in, like, you talked about me. Here I am. You don't believe? Here I am. And maybe the fact that I had always kind of believed the story when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, my parents told me that. Maybe the belief that I was like, well, this thing could be real. And it's like, well, that's enough of a seed planted in his head to believe in something like this. But her, completely, you're so full of shit. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then that thing shows up, like, still seems stupid to you? Because here I am.
Yeah.
And no, I don't. I told my parents about that, and they're just like, and? Like, what do you mean, and? Kind of situation. Like, there's no playing this off. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, we saw this thing. and they weren't impressed at all. They're like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
it is what it is."
That is, man. Number one, I would have freaked out. Like seeing an owl that size, I would have freaked out.
Yeah,
But for me, there's some really interesting things throughout that story. And I know, Burton, that in our conversation, before, just messaging back and forth, I know that I mentioned a couple things, but
yeah. Some things that stuck out in my brain too that you said.
yeah. So, but I'll start on I was going to say more logical, realistic side, but either way you go with this, it's nutso.
Yeah,
So you hear, or I've heard plenty of stories, from that kind of Badlands region about Thunderbirds. You hear about these Thunderbirds in the Midwest some, around Illinois some, but a couple of people that I've listened to, actually a couple of them were actually part of the Lakota tribe, talking about these Thunderbirds that they've witnessed, just monstrous, massive birds. But they've always been, kind of in flight. They see them passing by, passing through, not standing in the ditch in the middle of the road,
right.
just kind of like showing itself.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my first thought on this is, well, it's South Dakota. It's near, it's not in the Badlands, but near the Badlands, could be one of these Thunderbirds. Maybe that's what these things are. Maybe they're giant owls, who knows really. But getting into taking a detour away from that one and getting into more of the, we'll say spiritual entity side of it. Number one, a detail that you put right there was you were at a crossroads.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, that says that throws up red flags. Boom, 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 boom. Because you look all throughout history, people that, are practitioners of the occult, people that, want to try to contact, certain entities or see certain things. There's even some of these, don't play this game kind of games that are out there where you go to a crossroads. There's something throughout mythological history about crossroads. Number one. Number two, just like I told you, if you look into the demonic entity Lilith, who we've talked about on here before, she is always portrayed throughout history. The symbolism that comes along with her is an owl. She's, an owl or some form of, carrion bird. A bird of prey, crows, vultures, all of these different things. And, and this entity, Lilith, she's mentioned in scripture, in the Bible. It's Lilitu, then in the Hebrew. But if you look back at the history, if you look as far back as actual written history, ancient Sumer and Sumerian text, it talks about the Lilith, the Lilith, and how this being, she feasted on children. She was an entity that would show up during childbirth, and sometimes she would take the child during childbirth. Sometimes she would, just kidnap and swap kids. She was known, as far back as written human history goes, as a demonic entity that fed on the blood of children. So, for me, just some key points in that story. Number one, you're at a crossroads where,
oh man, I had a
number
great
two.
political joke, but I'm not going to go there. I was going to
Yeah.
say she's now known as Nancy Pelosi.
Hey, you better watch that mouth, Ryan. You'll have some dude in his underwear with a hammer showing up at your door any minute. But no, I mean it's for me it opens up a whole lot of questions and a whole lot of thoughts about this story, even though it changes a little bit from culture to culture, from civilization to civilizations, different society to different society, whatever. Even though there's always those key kind of the symbolism's always there. She's always represented by an owl or some form of bird of prey. She's always partaking in the taking or feasting or sacrifice of children. And if you look back at like mythology, and Ryan can tell you one of our favorite books, Lost Gods by Braun.
Oh, God. Yes.
They would even, the Liliths would even breed with humans to have these children born unto them so that at some point they could either possess or feed off of until they took control of their bodies. I mean, there's so much mythology there, but there's enough, and like we say on here all the time, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, obviously, I've talked about 1,000 times on here, I'm of the Christian faith. I believe in the spiritual world. I believe that because there is God, there is Satan. Because there are angels, there are demons. Where you have good, you have bad. And I believe that Lilith is one of these old entities that have constantly roamed the earth and probably at one point has been worshipped or feared, or probably both at the same time in all these ancient civilizations, because these ancient Sumerian women and Babylonian, and it goes on. She originated in Sumer. She goes on to Babylon. She's in ancient Egypt. She's in Greece and Rome. The name Lilith carries on, all throughout history. And they would even carve out these little totems to, cast spells on and pray over and all these different things, and keep beside pregnant mothers, during labor and all this different stuff to keep the Lilith away. And I mean, it's really interesting. It's really interesting if you look at the history of, but again, just looking at your encounter, and I know that's a lot of me talking just to
That's fine.
Just to get to my
You're blowing
point.
my mind.
For me, it's really wild that this story comes along with experiencing and seeing this giant owl at a crossroads. It's just, there's a lot there, dude. There's a lot there that's friggin' weird.
Talking about that now, what I love about bringing a story to somebody who's also into the paranormal, you bring up shit that I never even thought of, because until you said crossroads, that never clicked in my damn mind at all. Because I was at a crossroads, and as soon as you said that, I was like, no fucking way. I was 100% at a crossroads. I didn't even think about that, but I know what crossroads mean and what happens there all the time. Not that particular one, but in the lore of something like that. And I did not know about Lilith. I knew the name. I knew it had something demonic attached to it, something ancient, which is always creepy to me if it's something that's super old like that. But I did not know any of that. And what little bit we did talk about before off the podcast, I brought up to Cassie, and as soon as I said that of eating children and owls, she said, I got a shiver down my spine. I got goosebumps. You need to shut the hell up. I'm done. I don't want to hear any more of that. So you guys telling me, that's what happened to me just now whenever you brought up the crossroads thing. Because I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I was 100%. That was a 4-way crossroads.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And that was the first thing. And I don't even think, you had mentioned that, before, when we were just messaging. I mean, there's a whole lot that gets left out
I didn't bring that up.
In messaging. But whenever you said, we were at this 4-way crossroad, that was like, holy crap. So for me, that was even more validation that, you know what, this probably wasn't just a biological flesh and blood Thunderbird.
Thunderbird, owl bird. Okay, so whenever I bring this up to her again, before she listens to this podcast, because I know she will, baby, I love you. I'm excited to see what she thinks about this, because that's some creepy shit.
Yeah,
it is. It really is.
Now, as far when you're talking about Thunderbirds, though, in native lore, they're not always like considered evil, right? Like a spiritual thing.
That I'm not sure about.
I didn't think it was always evil, but it might be. But
I think more to do like with the Thunderbird. It's just like anything in nature. It's not like necessarily evil. It's just it's an animal that is a bird of prey. And what do birds of prey do? Well, they eat things that are smaller than they are.
You know what? They might actually, if there were birds big enough to like take us out, that would be scarier than mountain lion to me. Because like I said, I tell this story all the time. I was walking up my yard here and there's a street light at the driveway, but you got a good walk before you get there. And I don't know what it was. I just so happened, like out of just a corner of my vision, I see this shadow and I look up just in time to see this massive owl flying over, and there was no sound.
Yeah.
Like
this thing didn't make a single noise either. Yeah.
Those things are silent death. And that thing flying around, you'd never even know.
I remember being a kid, we'd be out in the country, out in Bad Nation, some land my father owned, and we'd coming back and I'd see like an owl on a fence post, and I'd be like, a little kid, oh, look at an owl, and I'd be pointing. My dad slapped my hand, don't point at it. I'm like, what? Don't even acknowledge it. And I'm like, what do you mean? And as I got older, my family's telling me, that's it means certain things. And if I remember correctly, what they told me was like, if you see an owl and you point at it or something like that, or you just see an owl on your drive or just out and about, that means that one of your loved ones is going to pass away or something. And I'm just like, and thank God nobody did at that particular time. Because then, it'd be like, holy crap, that's 100%. But I can't guarantee any of that. But I remember that there's definitely some sort of a lore or legends about owls and other birds. Like eagles mean something else, and crows mean something else. And
Well, Justin gets followed by crows all the time.
I do. I see 3 crows all the time, and it's either threes or multiples of 3s.
I have no idea what that means, but that's.
He has a thing with the number 3.
Really?
Yeah. I see 333 specifically everywhere, like everywhere. But it's not always 333. Sometimes it's 33. But these crows, actually, it happened again today. Like if I see a crow, I automatically know in my brain, okay, well, there's only going to be 3, or if I see one more than 3, I automatically know it's going to be a multiple of 3. Like I don't know, dude. It's weird. But I'll this didn't start until, you don't just
into Lilith.
You don't just spout out all that information about Lilith without doing a lot of research into it. I didn't start seeing those crows until I started researching Lilith. And from the time that I started doing that, I hadn't had a real paranormal experience in years and years and years. I mean, some weird things have happened, but, not anything that I could say concretely, okay, this is something unexplainable, this is something supernatural, until I've started researching Lilith. And originally I started looking into all of that because I planned on me and these boys. I planned on doing a little like mini documentary about a local river here that runs through where we live. It runs right by Hellier, Kentucky. You know, and there's so many stories that are involved in this river. Well, one of the, we'll say, principalities that I feel like has always been around in this region is Lilith. And I believe that based on a whole lot of stories, a whole collection of stories. And it ties into really, really deep into like Ward and Josh and Richie, the sword and staff guys, and their whole thing with Dark Holler. You know, one of the entities that this family contacted, kind of sought information from and communion, like it was Lilith. So there's a whole lot there. The reason that I started researching into this and looking in, but since that time, I see crows everywhere I go. There's been a couple nights that I've walked out and I have a street light right at the end of my walkway. And yeah, obviously there's bugs and frogs. You have bugs, so you have frogs, and then you have owls. But sometimes these owls, they're just kind of like sitting there. Then I open the door and start walking out, and I decide, you know what, I'm just going back inside. I mean, whatever I needed to do, I don't need it that bad.
Right,
well,
right.
More disturbing than any of this, I just realized that I just heard that story he told for the first time, and I'm the only asshole out of the three of us that's got to walk up a dark yard to get to the house. So if this giant owl, I hope this is a Dakota thing. Damn it.
No, it's not a Dakota thing. But it's kind of funny you brought it up, because I was also thinking that of all of us, it's going to be you, the one who says that, you know, you'll listen and you don't 100% believe in the paranormal stuff, but you're very open to listening to the stories, which is fine. And I'm not here to like try and convince anybody of any damn thing. I'm simply here to tell you what happened. So if it is going to happen to any of you guys, it's you, sir. And in all honesty, I kind of hope it does. Not in like an evil way. Not in like an evil way or anything like that. I just want you to see it. That way you can be like, yo, me and Bert saw the same damn thing.
And you know what?
That guy is honest.
I hope so, man. I hope so. If it will leave me the hell alone, I hope I do see it. But I don't want it to get into my cats either.
Like, you know what I just realized, and I'm sorry, this is a little bit off of what we're talking about right now. I'm sorry, Ryan. I really hope you see this giant owl, and I hope it wing slaps you right across the face. That's what I.
That'd be awesome.
No touching.
That would be awesome. But what I just thought about, I just started talking about Lilith. I mentioned one of our favorite books, Lost Gods by Brom. What is the main character's name in that book, Ryan?
Chet Moran.
Chet?
No fucking way.
Moran.
You share the last name of the heroine of my favorite book of all time. His name is Chet Moran. And they were in South Carolina on Moran Island.
Holy crap.
And his grandmother is a Lilith.
Paranormal investigator Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Mm-hmm.
Lorraine's maiden name was Moran. But I didn't know. I never read that book that you guys are talking about. It sounds amazing. I want to check that one out.
Do you have Audible?
I believe I have Kindle. I read all those on Kindle and stuff.
Okay, dude. Lost God, Brom, any one of his books, but Lost Gods is my favorite.
His last name is Moran, is the main character.
Yes, Chet Moran.
That just hit me.
Talking about
we've
Lilith.
come full circle.
Yeah, we've tied it all together with Lilith, Owls, and Moran. He shares the last name.
Yeah.
Yeah, his name's Chet Moran.
Now that is a synchronicity.
Yes, it is.
Beyond it, like you couldn't bring a story around and clean it to like an actual like synchronicity that well. If you tried, if I myself, if I tried to write a story, I couldn't bring that shit together.
Yeah.
No, that whole thing is literally like we scripted it.
That's organic.
It just hit me, dude. I was like, holy crap. We're talking about Lost Gods. The dude's name in Lost God is Chet Moran, and we're sitting here talking to Berton Moran about Lilith and Lost Gods.
Yeah.
And I had no idea about this.
Yeah.
I almost called it a bitch, but and if it upsets it, I want Ryan to tell her, in real life here, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you.
Ryan's got her. Ryan's got her.
You
Oh.
take care of business for me.
Well, just be easy. If you dive into that route, be easy, be protected. Make sure that you keep plenty. Because no joke. Like there was a couple weeks that I would jokingly tell Ryan, man, I'm just gonna go home and fight demons. Because I mean, literally, that's how I felt. Like stuff was weird for a couple weeks. I would hear I heard had like these mimic encounters. Like I would hear my wife calling from me from the front porch, and she would be nowhere around. A few days later, my youngest daughter, who is 5, would say, we'd be in the house together. One night it was just me and her. This has happened like 2 or 3 times. She said, "What, Daddy?" I was like, "What is she talking about?" So I got up from the recliner, walk in there and say, "What is it, Riley? Why are you hollering at me?" "You hollered at me." I said, "No, I didn't say anything." "Yes, you did. You hollered at me. It was you. You hollered and said, 'Hey, Riley, come here.'" God, that gives me chills just saying it. But there's been a couple of those things happen.
It's been the running joke since we started this podcast because Justin's doing all this research, like all this shit's happening to him. I'm just over here on gummies, like editing videos, like no big whoop. He's out here fighting demons, and I'm out here just trying to get sober.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
No, it's been weird, dude. It's been weird.
That is insane. Oh man, it's kind of one of those things they say. What do they say? If you look into the void, something's looking back, or something like that.
Yeah.
If you stare into the abyss, if you stare into the abyss long enough, eventually the abyss will stare back.
Yeah,
it's already staring at you.
Oh yeah. And so eventually I just got to the point. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna pray over it. I'm gonna stay studied up. Come at me. I don't even care.
I don't even say screw it. I always yell Wu Tang right before I do something like that.
Oh my God, that's so great. and
oh man,
obviously I never want anything bad to happen to any of you fellas. But I do hope you see this owl or something.
I hope I do too. Listen, I've been getting super dosed up on gummies and coming outside on really clear nights and looking up at the sky going, listen, aliens, I'm a willing participant, okay? I'm just a crazy high dude out in my yard, like talking to the sky, trying to get aliens to come see me. They won't do it.
I remember hearing something about, and this is going to be like one of those things, like maybe it's a far-fetched reach, but it's not really, because I've heard that there is a connection between aliens and owls.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Which opens up a broader spectrum for me.
Yeah.
We could go on forever about this conversation.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, in UFO lore, we'll say.
Let's say lore.
A lot of times, owls are like messengers, for UFOs or alien encounters. You hear a lot of cases where people will see owls and then they'll have all these alien encounters, which also wraps around and brings about something that I'm really, really, really digging right now is I fully 1000% believe that everything out there, cryptids, aliens, UFO, or ghosts, anything in the paranormal realm, I feel like it's all connected.
Oh yeah.
There's one central intelligence that is working the controls for all of this. I don't know how. I don't know exactly what it is because I'm not one of those, I'm a Christian. I believe, in Jesus Christ. I believe that he is who he said he is, but I'm not one of these people that, well, that's a demon. That's a demon. Everything's a demon. That's not me.
Gosh, mighty.
But I feel like all of this stuff is connected spiritually somehow and there's something at the center that's orchestrating everything.
See,
I mean,
I think that sometimes, Justin, but then again, on the other side of it, I think, man, maybe it's because us and everyone like us, when we discuss these things, it's always, that's the category you're in. So you do discuss these different types of things. That connects them. So you automatically associate them with each other. But I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying there's another way to look at it,
Well, yeah, absolutely. There's
that
1,000.
could be the connection.
Absolutely. It totally could be. But there's so many cases out there, dude. So many that I've been digging into and looking into, studying up on, of people that will have these. It's usually a UFO encounter, and then sometimes that leads to like contactee and maybe even abductee status, and then seeing these cryptids, around their place. Most often Bigfoot, not always, but then also this poltergeist activity going on in their home, all at the same time or within the same like time frame. Now, you hear a lot of people in the paranormal field that would be like, "Oh, well, that's a portal. That's a portal. That's something going on." But is it? I mean, are there that many portals out there?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a whole lot of particle accelerators out there, so maybe. But I don't know, dude. For me, it just feels like, I don't know. It's just
My
like the
power
owl.
just flickered.
Just like the owl thing. We're sitting here talking about what could be considered a cryptid, a giant 6-foot owl with a 12-foot wingspan. But they're also a messenger for UFOs and UFO encounters, ET encounters, but also they represent and symbolize a demonic entity that is as old as time. I mean, it's just, there's so many things like that. There's so many of those threads out there that you pull on, and it's just layers after layer after layer of, everything in this field.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's enough to keep my brain going nonstop.
100%. I tell you one thing, like being in the paranormal, I've always wanted to say, I guess, don't know if I want to say paranormal investigator. Or people know he's a YouTuber, so that's what it's all bullshit. But I tell you, like, I go ghost hunting. I have stories, and people are always, they don't want to believe a damn thing I have to say, mainly because, you're just trying to make it seem like you caught something on camera. So I ain't got the time to fuck around and pretend to catch ghosts,
Yeah.
or something like that.
And not only that,
But-
you just be hurting yourself.
Exactly. And I'm
And
not
the
gonna lie to you.
entire field around you of people trying to do the same thing you're doing.
I've said that so many times on my channel that the people who fake paranormal evidence are the worst fucking thing to happen to actual paranormal investigators.
Yeah.
Because, like, honestly, if you fake evidence, you're probably going to be one of the people that gets all the attention, and then you're going to come out as fake, or they're going to catch you as fake, and they're going to see your fucking string you're pulling or whatever the hell you're doing, and then, oh well, duh, nothing is real in this field that they're talking about, which is complete and total horseshit.
I mean, it's kind of like every paranormal TV show ever. I'm just like, come on, people.
The Zach Baggins.
Oh my god!
I've talked about him so many
Punch that dude right
times.
in the throat.
Okay,
He's got such
so
a punchable face.
him and his team, they go down to freaking the Goat Man's Bridge. They have 10 cameras filming everything, and I was watching part of the episode, and like the main part, not Zach Baggins himself, but his main partner in crime down there gets
Aaron.
picked up and thrown 10 feet. But all these cameras there didn't catch a goddamn thing. It's just him. Oh man, I just got thrown back like 10 feet. Oh, I feel so scared right now. It's like, fuck you, dude.
I like it when nobody's experiencing anything, and then all of a sudden somebody sits down. Oh god, I'm gonna pass out. This is it.
Yeah.
And my son, he would watch that stuff before. I had to make fun of him relentlessly until he stopped. But I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that to my kid. But
I love that. That was
I
awesome.
tell him all the time, I'm like, Ashton, don't listen to those. I don't know, Dad. Look, he got real sick. I was like, okay, look at me. I'm getting real sick right now, Ashton. I don't feel good. I think something just entered this room. It's not good. He goes, I get it. Like, Jesus Christ, son. Come on. Get
That's
your shit
100%.
together.
100%. It's like one of the terrible things that they do. And I understand why they do it is because they're backed by a big fucking company that's giving them $1 million for their season to go film and catch evidence, quote unquote.
I'm not
of
saying I
paranormal.
wouldn't do it, Bert. I'm saying
Hey,
if somebody pays me
here's
$1
the
million,
thing.
I'll do whatever. I'll make myself throw up on camera.
All I'm saying is if you want real research done, you know, you got to pay the real researchers to do it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to want to make a TV show 100% out of it. Like you can, if you wanted to make a TV show out of it. Will it be one of the most boring fucking things that anybody's ever had the audacity to make? Probably. If you've seen some of my videos, sometimes I catch shit very little bit, but I'm always out there. But people always say that, well, you were out there for a few hours, you know, why didn't you catch anything? If you've ever lived in a haunted house, you know that shit's not going on 24/7. You're there and you'll experience something like once a week. Like, what the fuck was that? I just saw a shadow person. It's not 100% thing that's happening all the time. And people, they won't accept that. They will not accept that answer. No, it has to happen now because that's why you're there. Like, fuck off.
Well, you're exactly right, man. And I think that's what makes these encounters so unique and so powerful when people do experience them. Because, you know, we've had a couple people as guests on the show that had so many different things happen to them that literally they just become like dead to all this. They just talk about these paranormal experiences like they're talking about the weather. Now, some people might look at that and say, oh, well, that person is definitely lying because, you know, they're laughing about it. But I look at that and say, well, no, that's just somebody that's lived it every single day of their life. Yeah. And, you know, it's nothing to them, you know. It's just like, it's literally like talking about the weather. But if you have, you know, just like you're saying, you go on these investigations, you do these things, you might be someplace, you know, one of the most haunted places in the world and sit there for hours and hours and hours and nothing happened. Nothing at all. You know, I am by no means, I'm not a paranormal investigator by any means. But I do like going to these different haunted locations and these tours and some of this different stuff. My son loves it. You know, everywhere we go, he loves to do it.
What an experience. Yeah.
But one of the craziest experiences that I ever had was at a goofy, silly, just escape from Michael Myers escape floor game going on at the old hospital on College Hill in Williamson, West Virginia, at the heart of Appalachia.
Yeah.
And yeah, this place is, you know, allegedly haunted and, you know, there's this entity and that entity and whatever. But one of the craziest experiences that I ever had was right there at that place, and I was not investigating. I didn't have my phone out. I didn't have my camera out. I was literally solving clues and getting riddles completed, going floor to floor, room to room, while Halloween music was playing in the background, strobe lights were going, and Michael Myers in costume was walking around with a plastic butcher knife, acting like he was going to kill people. One of the craziest experiences I ever had. So, I mean, that's the thing about it. And for me, if I had been there on an investigation, if I had been pulling a Zach Bagans and you know, screaming, come at me, bro, you know, you ain't got nothing.
Right.
And that happened, then it would have been like, yeah, you know, I expected that. It's when you're not expecting it. You know, you were driving down the road, we're not expecting to see a giant owl.
No.
You know, you getting super upset at your cousin's aunt's house because of a tragedy that's just happened, which I believe these things feed off of, by the way.
100%.
This tragedy happens, you get super upset. You weren't expecting to walk upstairs and everything in the kitchen start going friggin' nuts. So these things that have happened in these unique times that you weren't prepared for they have the biggest impact on you. Now, you were at Goatman's Bridge. If the Goatman himself would have walked out there in the middle of it and said, Berton, look at me, it'd have been like, all right, this is what I expected. Let's go.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't be like that at all. It'd be like, holy shit, there's a goat, man. I'm getting the fuck out of here. This is Shane's Bridge, you bastard. And then run.
We're talking about dangerous Burton here, Ryan. They would have fist fought on that bridge right then.
Burton, I believe that you walked in those woods and disregarded your safety, but if Goatman had stepped out on that bridge, what would you have done?
Well, I probably would have hated for myself because I probably would have turned tail for at least a while. But I tell you what, for the rest of my life, I would have had to ask myself, was that a guy in a goat suit or was that the real goat man? Did I get just punked by some teenager out there fucking with people? Or, you know, would I like
Burton,
it?
If Burton's being humble right now,
Yeah.
he would have reared back and he would have kicked him right in the wiener. That's exactly what he'd have done. He'd have kicked him right in his goat wiener and punched him in his human nose and then ran.
My philosophy about all this is, you know, I am a skeptic. So horror movies, creepypastas, scary stories, all that, none of that shit has ever bothered me, you know, because I'm not worried about any of it. It doesn't affect me the same way it does other people. As a matter of fact, I get pissed off because nobody makes scary movies anymore. Like, you know what I mean? They don't make them scary. It's all jump scare bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, where's the horror behind this? So,
Yeah.
But my philosophy, like Ashley, my wife, she'll be like, did you hear that? And I'll be like, I'll not even move or look at her. I'll just be like, never happened. I'll just keep going. I'm like, she's like, I heard it though. I'm like, never happened.
That's one of those things that I've talked to people that are ghosts aren't real. Ghosts aren't real. And it's people I've become friends with, obviously. And no one's like, you've never experienced anything. Well, it's not real. So it doesn't matter what I experienced. It didn't happen. And I'm like, well, what happened? And one of my friends told me a story about one time he was alone in his room and shit started getting thrown around. But I don't believe in any of that stuff, though. I'm like, what the hell was that then? I don't want to talk about it. That's what that is. I just don't want to talk about it. I'm like, all right, then. We don't have to talk about it. But I was going to say, you know, fist fighting a goat man, win or lose, what a fantastic thing.
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine, even if somehow my camera managed to catch me in a fist fight with the goat man right before he snapped my neck? Good God, what a way to go.
Well,
what a way to go.
If he did snap your neck, your family's set for life because their royalties, they're making millions off of that. 100%. Secondly, if you survive that,
100%,
then that's how I would introduce myself for the rest of my life. Hey, I'm Justin Kaiser, and I fist fought Goatman.
I'd be the Travis Walton of the Goatman's Bridge.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan would be like, what was it like? What was it like hitting the Goatman in the face? Well, it was kind of hairy.
Well, Joe, you know when you take that scoop of Alpha Male and drink that, it kind of felt like that.
It's Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain.
Alpha Brain.
Yeah, Alpha Brain. That is right. That is right.
My bad.
Alpha Brain.
So I took 4 scoops of Alpha Brain, smoked some meth, and did a lot of cocaine.
Maybe that's why I do walk into those damn places, into the woods or something, because you know what happened to Bert? You ever wonder what happened to Bert? I don't know. He went on some freaking Secha Hollow trip into these fucking woods with shapeshifters. Never was seen again. I'd be a legend in my own story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you got to remember that guy had that really shitty YouTube channel, and then he went missing. I'm not saying that I want to have that happen, but if it did happen.
This week on Local Legends, Berton Moran. This is the story of Berton Moran missing.
Okay, this is something I want to do when I get older, and I'm obviously we're all inevitably going to die. I want to pay for my own like funeral shit. I'm not like prop me up in the corner and take turns throwing darts at my head. No, it's nothing like that. I just want to pay for my own tombstone, and I want it to read something on the back of the tombstone like, "What are the odds that you found me? Maybe tonight I'll find you." And then people will be like, what the fuck does that mean? And then that night, they're just sleeping with. No, they're not sleeping at all. They're expecting that Berton Moran guy to come looking for him again.
See, I want to record myself making a bunch of different statements with a motion activated video screen. And when somebody walks by my headstone, I'm like, hey, get the fuck off me. I'm trying to help. They buried me alive. Shit like that. You know?
You know, they used to have those bells that would run down into your grave in case you're still alive. Just have one of those, but actually make it ding all the time.
Oh my God, that'd be great.
Nonstop.
Wouldn't that be like somebody be like, is this for real? What's going
on
right now?
It's actually where the term "saved by the bell" came from.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I did not realize that. That's awesome.
Actually, where that term came from. Also, the graveyard shift, working the graveyard shift.
Yep.
That's where that term came from.
That I think I remember hearing that one.
Yep.
I did not realize the Saved by the Bell thing. But let's just all realize what a terrible way to die.
Oh
is
yeah.
being buried alive. No
Going
thanks.
completely catatonic and not being able to answer, but being able to see and know cognitively everything that's going on around you. Holy crap, that'd be terrible.
There's not a guy in this freaking podcast to this episode that besides which one are we missing here? I'm so sorry, Lance. I don't know what Lance's stance on this is, but you guys would fist fight the Goat Man before you'd want to be buried alive.
Oh, God.
For sure.
I would square up.
I'd fist fight 4 goat men before I've got buried alive. Like on each side behind me, I would Jackie Chan. I'd start going crazy.
We were talking earlier about Lilith and giant owls, and then we were also talking about mountain lions. But what if like you were saying, giant birds and mountain lions taking over would be terrible? Wait until they start teaming up and dropping mountain lions on you.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Wait till you go to Goat Man's Bridge and a giant owl drops a mountain lion right in on. You got a mountain lion behind you, a thunderbird above you, and then Goat Man on the other side. This is like the Dark Avengers, son.
What a tangent! I love this so much.
I'm tagging my homie Bigfoot in.
Oh man! Oh yeah!
Start whooping like crazy.
I was want to throw that out there right now. Bigfoot's real.
For sure.
Bigfoot is real.
I'm leaning more and more towards that.
You can't tell me, like, okay, obviously there's fake videos out there. Yeah. But of all those 100 of fake ones, you're going to tell me not one of those fucking videos is real?
But I mean, why is it always a blob squash? It's never a clear picture.
Well, let me tell you something else. Thousands of sightings. Literally thousands of sightings. You can't tell me none of those are real. All right, let's say that 1,000 people say they saw me murder someone. I would be in jail.
Yeah.
There's no body and no proof. 1,000 eyewitnesses. I'd be in jail. You guys would look at me like I'm a freaking murderer because 1,000 people saw it. But we say that with 1,000 people saw this giant gorilla ape, what am I thinking? Bipedal creature. You're full of shit.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Berton, have you ever murdered somebody?
Next question.
Good. I'm glad that was your answer. Because in my mind, I thought you were going to say no, and then I was going to follow up with that's exactly what a murderer would say.
Well, let's just go on ahead and skip right over all that.
That's exactly what a murderer would say.
I actually told Ryan the other day that's how I was going to start opening episodes when I have a guest that we've never met. Be like, this is such and such, blah, 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 blah. So, whoever, have you ever murdered somebody? No, that's exactly what a murderer would say. So anyway, let's get into act like nothing happened at all,
and just like never bring it up again. And see, like, what the hell is that? Does he think I'm a murderer? No, there's a guy at work I work with. He always says that about me, and that you're always into this creepy shit. You probably have bodies buried in your backyard. I'm always like, shut up. Why don't we just shut up about it?
No, they're not in the backyard. They're in the basement. Backyard's a stupid place.
Why would I put them in my backyard? They're in yours, you idiot.
Oh my
Burying
God.
bodies on my property?
Oh yeah,
guys,
exactly.
guys, this has been a lot of fun. This has been a ton of fun. Berton, man, yeah, we've been going for a while, way longer than what I thought we had been.
Yeah.
Berton, dude, this was a lot of fun, dude. We really, really appreciate you coming on here and
Absolutely.
like we tell the guests that we have a lot of fun with, which is most of them.
Yeah.
You got an open door here, brother. You got an open door.
Just
Anything that happens in your investigations, you come across any kind of cool new research, any experiences that come up, or some things that I'm sure you have more that you didn't get to share because we like to talk a whole lot. The door's always open, brother. We'll get you back on here. We'll talk again because this has been a blast, man. This has been a blast.
Yeah. You know, I'd like to get Bert back with Steve and Kyle.
Oh yeah,
big powwow with them.
Yeah, for sure.
Steve, Kyle, I love those two. They're great.
Oh yeah,
Man,
they are
me too.
awesome guys.
I love this conversation we had today. Was just awesome.
Yeah,
fun.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Well, that's what here. We're a little bit different, and we do get a little bit of. Oh, I wish you guys would just let the guests talk more, but like we want to hear the experiences. We want to hear these things, but we also
want to interact.
We also just want to have a conversation. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to open up the conversation and go down these different roads and rabbit holes into, what could this be? You know what? Because I think that's what everybody that's in this paranormal realm of thinking and investigation and searching, that's all we're trying to do, right? Is find answers. That's all we're trying to do. Find answers and find evidence.
Exactly. I tell you, like, honestly, one of the coolest things that's going to happen to me coming out next year, and this is the first time I've ever said it where anybody else, like, I guess publicly, is I'm going to be in a book.
Nice.
There was a book I've been interviewed for. It's coming out. It's a national publishing thing on my research and paranormal. I'm not the main focus of the book, but I am in the book. So yeah, I'll have more on that some other time, but just keep an ear out for that.
Yeah, for sure, brother. For sure. That'd be awesome. As soon as that starts coming down the pipe, let us know.
Yeah.
We'll push it.
On that note, Bert, go ahead and plug yourself again.
Oh, yeah. I always forget how to do this. Again, random name generator, not really. Local Legends, Berton Moran on YouTube. If you want to get a hold of me, you can leave a comment on there. Look me up on Facebook at just Berton Moran or Berton Allen Moran. But yeah, if you have any awesome stories or somewhere you want me to investigate or risk my life for, go ahead and look me up.
Yeah, man.
Just realized his initials are BAM.
Yeah,
Dude,
they are.
That's a thing with my 100%.
Bam.
Sweet.
Bam.
I love it.
None of you guys made a Bert and Ernie joke, so that was great.
I actually thought about that earlier.
I knew you did. I
Did you?
I didn't.
Yeah, I did. I thought about it, but I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
I didn't think once about them.
I didn't.
So many people, my entire life.
I thought about it.
That I have a cousin named Ernie. Does not help.
Oh, that would be great.
Now, if I seen you two together.
You won't. I haven't seen him in years, but
Yeah.
I think we might avoid each other just because of that situation.
Probably, I would.
I can't hang out with you.
But Hill folk, definitely go out there and check out Burton's YouTube channel, Local Legends, Berton Moran. Hit that subscribe button. Get him some Hill folk subscribers out there. Show him some love.
Yeah,
Show him some love. Go follow him on social media. He's got some cool stuff out there. He got some cool stuff. Check it out. And if nothing else, just go love on him because we love on him.
Yeah.
That's just
his shit's great. I was on there today.
Yeah. As the tribal leaders of this Hill folk tribe, I don't think I should even say that. That feels like cultural appropriation.
No, I like it.
Well,
I like it.
Also, it just sounds like a cult. That's
What's wrong with that?
you know how I feel about cults.
I told you, I'm starting my own cult. I'm tired of researching about it. I'm just going to do it.
Really, I want to, but I'm trying to find a new shtick. You know, they all got the same thing.
Look, by the time
are coming,
by the time I'm done, you're going to be the lieutenant in my cult and not even realize you're in a cult.
I don't know. I am hyper vigilant against cults.
You won't be. I'm coming from an angle that you'll never see.
Hyper vigilant against cults. Like if I even smell cult, it's over. You're done.
That's a t-shirt. That's a t-shirt right there. Hyper vigilant against cults.
We have so many t-shirt ideas.
Oh, God. I'm still thinking about getting, well, they might listen to this, but I'm still thinking about getting the bone ripping Bigfoot tattoo and just surprising Stephen Kyle with it.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, me and you have so much like that right there. I was thinking the same damn thing, but I was like, man, I get so much shit if I do that. Oh,
See,
Bigfoot
there's a
bone
difference.
ripper.
I don't care if people give me shit. I'll do whatever the hell I want. But that's
Oh, that's awesome.
Guys,
all right, Justin.
This has been a lot of fun. Burton, again, thank you so much for coming on here. We really, really appreciate you. We appreciate the content that you put out and the work that you do and trying to find those answers. And again, man, this has been a blast. This has been a really good time.
I agree. I've had a lot of fun.
Ryan, I love you, bro.
Love you, buddy.
Burton, we love you, bro.
Yeah, man.
I love you guys.
You are now Hill folk, baby. I mean, you already were, but you know, like
It's
now
official.
now it's official.
Official.
For the
And,
rest of you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I
man.
was just going to tell Bert to hang around. I want to ask him a couple more questions, but not record worthy.
That's fine. That's fine.
For the rest of you Hill folk out there, remember, follow us on all our socials. Those will be listed in the show notes. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel to where you can see these ugly mugs instead of just listening to these sweet, sweet, sultry voices.
Apparently, I sound like a fat guy.
Yeah, apparently you do.
That's what Bean said.
Yeah, I know. Rate and review this show on iTunes because nowhere else lets you do it because no other platform can get their crap together, which is ridiculous. Share the show, guys. Share the show. That's the most important thing you can do. That's the only way this show grows. Keep it up. Y'all have shown us a lot of love. We're coming up on a year, which is crazy to me.
This month.
It's nuts. But anyway, we appreciate you, Hill folk. We appreciate everything you do. We know that you're sharing the show because we see it in the stats. We love y'all. And until next time, we'll see y'all later.
And Lance says, love you, mean it.
Bye.